Hi, I'm Woody Huffines, and I own the Nerds to Go in McKinney and Frisco, Texas. And this is Tech for the Untechnical. What's a VPN? How does it work, and why do you need one? In a number of the videos that I've done, there's links to the playlist up here. I've talked repeatedly about VPN and why you need a VPN and why a VPN is a good thing. Well, let's take a little bit of time to go a little more in depth about what a VPN is. A VPN is a virtual private network. It allows you to electronically treat the connection between you and an internet resource like it's private. If you were sitting in my living room and we wanted to communicate one computer to the other and we hardwired it, plugged a cable into my machine right directly into your machine, there wouldn't be any way for anyone to intercept anything that we were passing back and forth because it's a hardwire. Well, what happens if we're not directly connected? You're sitting in your house and I'm sitting in my house and we start moving stuff back and forth. Somebody in between there could, theoretically, intercept that information and see what information we were passing back and forth. Not necessarily a good thing, especially if it was private information, personal information, credit card information, banking information, things like that you don't want out in the open. What a virtual private network does is it establishes a secure connection so that those communications can go back and forth securely, that someone in between can't look at them. Now, in another video, link up here, I talk a little about encryption and the difference between regular encryption and private key or public key encryption. And a VPN leverages that information to create a private network between you and an external resource. That VPN connection encrypts all of the data in the connection. In an HTTPS or Secure Sockets Layer, Transport Layer Security session where you're ordering things from Amazon.com, for example, the information that you're passing back and forth to Amazon is secure in that the information contained in the communication is secure. But let's use this example. Let's say I sent you a postcard. If I send you a postcard, and we're all familiar with postcards, and I'm at the Grand Canyon and I take a Grand Canyon postcard picture and I write your address on it and I say, "Weather's here, wish you were fine," and I send it to you, stick a stamp on it and drop it in the mail. Anybody that picks up that postcard can read what I have written to you. And that's the way the internet used to work. It was like a postcard. The information in the communication was unencrypted and where it was going was unencrypted. Anybody could read the address or what I had written because it was just on a postcard. Now let's take the second case. Let's say I sent you a letter from the Grand Canyon. And I write a letter about we rode the mules into the bottom of the canyon and it was really pretty, but it got cold on Wednesday. And I write you a big long letter and I fold that letter up and I put it in an envelope and address the envelope and put a stamp on it and send it to you. That is what Transport Layer Security or HTTPS security is. Anybody between me at the Grand Canyon and you at your house can look and see that if I put a return address on it, Woody was in Arizona and sent John a letter, and we really don't know what was in the letter, but we can read the envelope information or the information that's on the outside of it. And that's what Transport Layer Security does, is if I'm communicating with Amazon, anybody between me and Amazon on the internet has the ability to see where I am and where I'm communicating to, but they can't see what we're communicating because that's encrypted inside of the envelope, if you will. With a virtual private network, on the other hand, more stuff is hidden. And here's a link on how the internet works if you want to know a little bit about IP addresses. So as I send something on a VPN, all of the information, my IP address, what I'm putting in that letter or where I'm putting in that communication is hidden between me and the endpoint of the virtual private network server. So it gives you another layer of protection because somebody can't see your IP address. Now, all of these things, whether it's Transport Layer Security or HTTPS and virtual private network, is trying to encrypt the data that goes from one place to another so that you don't have what's called a man-in-the-middle attack. And what's a man-in-the-middle attack? That's where someone who has access to the information flow across the internet that's between you and an endpoint can intercept the information, read it, and then pass the information along. For example, let's say I was trying to send my next door neighbor a letter that's a secure communication letter, and I hand it to one of my kids and tell them, hey, take this over to Michael Dean because he needs to see what we're going to do for the block party. Well, that person that carries it is the man in the middle. That kid that I sent over there to take the message across the street could read the information in the letter. And HTTPS security and virtual private network security make that more difficult because a man in the middle, all they see is encrypted data. And with a VPN, that data encryption goes from your endpoint to the exit point of the VPN. Think of the VPN as a tunnel. It's a virtual private network. It is a tunnel of encrypted information that goes from your computer to the exit point of the VPN. And there are several different VPN vendors, and that VPN vendor then sends the message on from that endpoint. And with the VPN that I use, for example, I can change my location. I can say that I want to use the VPN server in Dallas, or I can use the VPN server in Sri Lanka. So all of the information, should I choose, say, Hong Kong, I send a message to you, and it looks like that message is coming from Hong Kong instead of my computer, because my computer is encrypted from my computer to the server in Hong Kong, and then from the server in Hong Kong it goes on out. If I combine HTTPS with a virtual private network, then somebody in between only knows where the message is going. Because at the end of the day, the envelope that carrying the message, whether it's an IP packet or a letter, has to have an address that the public can understand so that they can deliver the letter. So why is a VPN a good thing to have? Well, it prevents man-in-the-middle attacks. It gives you additional privacy because it doesn't allow people to see where you're sending information from, only where the information is going to. In other words, they can see the communication between the VPN endpoint and the location, not your house and the location. So what kind of VPN should you use? Well, there are free VPNs, but free VPNs are worth exactly what you pay for them. Anytime, and you've heard me say this before, that a resource on the internet is free, then you are the product. Those VPN servers that are free are using something to monetize their operations. Somebody is paying them because VPN networks are expensive to set up. There's a lot of servers and there's a lot of maintenance and there's a lot of stuff that has cost. So if somebody is giving you a free VPN, they have to make money someplace, and one of the ways they make money is to sell the information that they gather by handling your information and data. So while there are free VPNs, and a free VPN may be an answer for you if you don't use it very frequently, a paid VPN is a much better answer. There are two VPN providers that pretty much lead the pack. Those are ExpressVPN and NordVPN. In the case of NordVPN, they had a data exposure 3 or 4 months ago that just came out in the last month. There were some accounts that were old accounts that people had that were old administrator accounts, and a bad guy got into the NordVPN servers and evidently was able to steal some data. It's a black eye, but it's not the end of the world. ExpressVPN has been very secure. Both of these are going to cost you money, and they're worth the money that you pay because they don't track any of the information. They don't have server logs. So let's go back and talk about the VPN process. You connect to the VPN and you send a communication to the New York Times. Say you're a dissident that lives in, I don't know, Alabama's probably got dissidents according to the New York Times, and you send something to the New York Times. And as you send it, there's a man-in-the-middle attack if you send it in the open. There's who sent it and where it's going if you use secure sockets layer or transport layer security like HTTPS. But if you use a VPN and you say, I'm going to make my VPN outlet point Denver, Colorado, it looks like a message came from Denver to the New York Times. Now, theoretically, ExpressVPN would know who sent it because they have to route the information back to you. And again, you can look up here and learn a little bit about how internet IP addresses work. So if you have a VPN, you obscure your address and you obscure the data that's in the communication, and it keeps somebody in the middle from reading that information. If a VPN provider logs that information, they have the server logs that show where you connected from, how long you were connected, and who you connected to. In the case of ExpressVPN, they don't log the data. On more than one occasion, ExpressVPN has been served subpoenas for their server logs, and they were able to go, no, we don't have them, because they don't keep them. And that makes them, my opinion, one of the most secure VPNs you can use. Significantly more expensive than free, not expensive. They have a deal most of the time where you can get 15 months for the price of 12. You get three free months, and I don't know, it's about $100. But if you spend a lot of time in airports or in public Wi-Fi attachments like your local Starbucks, having that VPN security is probably a pretty good thing to do. Is it worth having a VPN connection from your home? Well, probably. There are routers, Nighthawk, for example, routers, that you can install a VPN so that all of the information that goes out onto the internet from your home location goes out through a VPN connection. If you use a VPN and internal to the home, it can cause some problems. A VPN sets up a different network in cases of some vendors. So, for example, if you have a printer that's connected to your network and you fire up your laptop on a VPN, that printer is on a different network. That printer's on your home network while the VPN sets up a different network. A VPN at home can be helpful if you want to see movies or sporting events that are filtered by your location. For example, we've got a client that wanted to watch a lot of the soccer that's broadcast on the internet in England, but it's not broadcast on the internet in the United States. So by using a VPN, he can connect to a VPN server in England, and as far as the content provider is concerned, he's connecting from England, so they serve the data and he's able to see it. So to review, what's a VPN? A VPN is a virtual private network that encrypts all of the data from your computer to the VPN endpoint through a VPN tunnel. It obscures your address or where the information or communication is originating from, as well as the content of that communication to the endpoint of the VPN. It's very handy if you use public Wi-Fi, Starbucks, airports, places like that. And it's a great way to continue to add another layer of security to the things that you do. So virtual private networks, they're a good thing. If you're out in public a lot, grab one. If this information is helpful to you, hit the subscribe button below, ring the notification bell, and when we put these out, you'll get a notification. You'll be able to watch it, be able to learn something. Thanks for joining us. I'm Woody Huffines. I own the Nerds to Go in McKinney and Frisco, Texas.